We all know the ritual. You find a ticket to London, Milan, or Paris for 19 euros and you feel like a genius. But then the psychological warfare begins. You spend the next 3 weeks stressing about the exact millimeter dimensions of your backpack. You stand in a massive, stressful line at the gate for 40 minutes before even boarding starts. You sit in a bright yellow cabin that looks like a fast food restaurant, and when you finally land, a trumpet plays over the speakers to celebrate that you survived. You grab your bag, you walk down the stairs onto the tarmac, and you swear you will never, ever fly them again. And then, next month, you do it all over again. Today, we're going to look at the brutal genius economics of Ryanair and how they built a multi billion euro empire by weaponizing human psychology. To understand Ryanair, you have to stop thinking of them as a traditional airline. They don't sell flights, they sell a loss leader product. Think about how tech companies will sell you a printer for dirt cheap, but make all their massive profit on the ink cartridges. Ryanair does the exact same thing with aviation. When you buy a ticket on a legacy carrier, you're buying a bundled product: transportation, a bag, water, and customer service. Ryanair simply looked at the math and unbundled everything. Why? Because of flight search engines like Skyscanner and Google Flights, Ryanair knows that 99% of customers sort by price low to high. They need to have the cheapest base fare to get your initial click. That 19 euro ticket is just the bait to get you into their ecosystem. When you pay that base fare, you're not buying a flight, you're buying a non refundable permission to slip to enter a metal tube. That's it. This is a driven by the economic concept of ancillary revenue. The cheap ticket barely covers the aviation fuel. The actual corporate profit comes from the add on gauntlet: the 30 euro carry on bag, the 8 euro priority boarding, the 10 euro seat selection, the scratch cards, and the overpriced paninis. You aren't buying a trip, you are buying a base product, and they're taxing your comfort. But the real genius isn't just charging for extras, it's how they force you to buy them. If you look at Ryanair's website and app, it is a masterclass in what behavioral economists call dark patterns. The entire user interface is designed to trigger anxiety and loss aversion. When you try to book a flight, the screen flashes in red, only two seats left at this price. When you decline travel insurance, they force you to manually click a tiny button that says, "No, I don't want to protect my trip." And the seating algorithm, it's infamous for deliberately separating people on the same booking. They know that couples and families will panic, and the thought of sitting next to strangers for 3 hours, which forces you to cave and pay the 10 euro seat selection fee. They essentially hold your comfort hostage, and mathematically, it works perfectly. But you can't build a massive empire just by annoying people on a website. Their backend economics are arguably the most ruthless and efficient in global aviation. First, the fleet. They operate basically one type of aircraft, the Boeing 737. This means every pilot, every flight attendant, and every mechanic is interchangeable. There is zero wasted time in training. Second, the turnaround time. An airplane only makes money when it's in the sky. When a Ryanair jet lands, they onboard the passengers, board the new ones, and have that plane back in the air in about 25 minutes. And third, they rarely fly into major hubs. They fly into secondary airports that are sometimes an hour away from the actual city. Because these smaller airports are so desperate for tourism, they offer Ryanair massive subsidies and incredibly cheap landing fees just to bring passengers there. And Ryanair knows exactly how much power they hold. If an airport suddenly tries to raise its fees, Ryanair doesn't negotiate gently. They use their ultimate weapon: they threaten to immediately cut all routes and leave. They have single handedly bankrupted regional airports by pulling out overnight. It is absolute hardball economics, and because they command so much passenger volume, Ryanair almost always wins. But here is the ultimate irony. Ryanair management loves to play aviation bully. Just recently, they were loudly predicting that competitors like Wizz Air or Air Baltic could actually go bankrupt by the end of the year. They love projecting an image of absolute invincibility. But if you look at the financial data that just dropped, it tells a slightly different story. Ryanair's own profits actually just plummeted by 34%. For the quarter ending in June 2026, their profit dropped down from 820 million to 538 million euros. Why is this happening? Two massive economic walls. First, the reality of soaring oil prices. While Ryanair hedges most of its fuel, the 20% they left unhedged literally doubled in price to $150 a barrel due to an ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. When jet fuel costs skyrocket like that, even the most heavily optimized budget airline in the world watches its profits margins evaporate. Second, the consumer breaking point. To keep their planes full right now, Ryanair has been forced to slash average ticket fares by 6%. Everyday consumers are simply tapped out by inflation and economic uncertainty, forcing the airline to lower prices just to stimulate demand. It turns out that even the undisputed king of budget travel isn't immune to macroeconomic gravity. When all prices explode and consumer spending hits a wall, everybody feels the squeeze. As an economist, looking at Ryanair is fascinating because it proves the ultimate truth about human behavior. At the end of the day, price beats pride. Consumers will tolerate a chaotic website, aggressive boarding policies, and zero legroom as long as the ticket is cheaper than the competition. They built a brilliant, unapologetic machine that weaponized our own financial psychology and ruthlessly bullied airports into submission. But as we're seeing right now, even a perfect economic machine has a ceiling when the global economy shifts. Let me know in the comments what is the most you have ever ended up paying in Ryanair hidden fees just to get your destination. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.